Hello, welcome. Welcome to LinkedIn. My name is Russell Hancock. I'm the president and CEO of Joint Venture Silicon Valley, and one of the organizations that's sponsoring our event today. Just in a second, I'm going to introduce Shiloh Ballard, my colleague and co-sponsor of the event. Shiloh's, of course, the head of the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition. So the two of us have teamed up to organize this program. But the first thing we want to do is say thank you to LinkedIn. So I'd like to introduce Mike Alba, our host today. Come on up, say a few words.
Thanks, Russ. So here at LinkedIn, as you may have seen coming in, biking is really important to us. This is a really exciting opportunity to sponsor something like this or host it. I'm very excited to see how this turns out. Great week to kick this off. This is my first time in this room, so if anything breaks, you can blame the guy who was standing up here earlier. I appreciate everybody coming out. Good luck, have fun, and bike on Thursday, Bike to Work Day. See you out there.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to introduce Shiloh Ballard, the head of the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition. She'll say a few things, and then we're going to introduce our distinguished visitors.
Thank you, Russ. So again, my name is Shiloh Ballard. I run the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition. How many of you are members of the Bike Coalition? I love to see that. Thank you. I also love to see professionally dressed, disheveled people, which means we arrived on our bike. So I know you're going to forgive me for my hair being kind of messed up. So thank you for coming. Before we get started, I'm just going to, again, thank LinkedIn and also Joint Venture for partnering on bike issues and using their influence and their podium to advance a pro-bike agenda. I have in my hand, I come from a grassrootsy community organizing background, so I don't go anywhere without a clipboard where people can sign up to volunteer and join and do work. So I have a clipboard that's going to go around the room and also some flyers about what the Bike Coalition does. So if you're unfamiliar, a lot of hands went up, but if you're one of the hands that didn't go up, please sign up on the clipboard. Please take a flyer and get involved. Those green lanes, buffered bike lanes, protected bike lanes, they don't happen by magic. There's an organization out there that helps make that happen, and that's the Bike Coalition, and we could use their support to continue to do that. So thanks for being here, and I'm going to hand it back over to Russ.
Thank you, Shiloh. Joint Venture is a business, government, labor organization. In other words, it's a multi-sector organization. It tries to bring together Silicon Valley around the issues that challenge us as a region. So that's why we're here. Now look, Silicon Valley should be America's bicycle capital. That's how we feel. I mean, seriously, we live in a Mediterranean climate. The landscape, for the most part, is flat. We have a population, I'm looking at it, that is health conscious, is also environmentally conscious. It just doesn't make any sense. We should be a mecca for biking, but it's going to take a change in our thinking, and it's going to take a change in our priorities, and so we want to be doing that. Our organization has made that a priority. Now, when you're starting something, you like to learn from the people that have done it before. You like to learn from the best people out there, and so we think of Europe as a superb example of this. If you go to some of the great European capitals, they're on bikes. If you go to Copenhagen, they're on bikes. If you go to Amsterdam, they're on bikes. In Amsterdam, I think it's something like 60% are using the bicycle as their primary means of transportation. Amazing. They build bicycle parking garages. We're going to see all of this over the next hour. I mean, it's really quite remarkable. But here I want to make a point. Had you visited any of those cities 3-4 decades ago, it wasn't the case. They looked like any messed up American city. And yet they were able to make choices, policy choices, arrange priorities, align resources so that they could remake their landscape and their urbanscape so that the bicycle could become a truly viable means of transportation. We think we need to do that here. And so we have a distinguished set of visitors who have come to us all the way from the Netherlands to tell us how that happened in their home country, and then to help us distill from it the lessons that we need to apply here on the Silicon Valley landscape. Before I bring them on stage, let me tell you the ground rules. We're going to meet 3 members of their delegation. They're going to speak for about 20 minutes each. So they've prepared an hour of material. And after the hour, they will be entertaining your questions, and we hope to have some dialogue and discussion. We have told them that we want to wrap everything by about 5:35 or 5:40 at the latest, because quite a few of us are anxious to see the Golden State Warriors complete their sweep of the Utah Jazz tonight. So that's the plan. We're going to wrap it about probably no later than 5:35 tonight. Okay, so now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to meet our distinguished Dutch visitors. I've asked them to introduce themselves. So here they are from the Netherlands. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Russell. Is it loud and clear in the back as well that I'm putting the mic down and just choosing this one? Thank you again, Russell, for this great opportunity. LinkedIn, of course, as well, for this great venue, for this great room. We just discussed, I don't know if we have like these kind of rooms in the Netherlands. Maybe we do, but like it's just a normal thing in the Netherlands, cycling, you know. So let me start with a small introduction. My name is Mirjam Borsboom. I'm the director of the Dutch Cycling Embassy. Do you have something like an embassy in Holland for cycling? Yes, we do. I'd like to introduce the other experts, Bas van Dijk, who will be presenting after me, Director CTO of Lumiguide, after this presentation, and Johan Diepens, CEO of Mobycon, also joining the delegation, and my colleague Edward Dauma of the Dutch Cycling Embassy as well. So that's our team for this week. We're having a fact-finding mission, as we call it. That sounds something going to Mars or something, but it's about gathering and collecting all the facts, meeting as many people as we'd like to, as we possibly can. Last week was in Los Angeles, and this week we're having 4 days in San Jose and 2 days in San Francisco. And we're actually we're glad. Wow, that was a bit scary. Okay, no worries. We have another one, so I think it's another 5 minutes probably before it gets down as well. So yeah, we're traveling with this suitcase as well, you can imagine. We're really creative with this thing. Like, okay, let's focus on what we're here for, how to become a cycling city. Wow, that's something as a title to say. I think like we're displaying the world and you see a lot of logos. The thing we do is try to share as much knowledge and data, fun facts, nice movies all around the world, and also, of course, collecting your nice examples and features. And I'd like to have a lot of inspiration after this session, because I think it's quite something where you're working on the moment we are in right now. So let's try to keep within the 20 minutes. Let's start. This is Europe. It's a lot of dots, but with a lot of creativity, you see Europe here. And as you maybe know, the Netherlands is somewhere between England, Belgium, Germany. I'm very interested in who has been to the Netherlands. Wow, that is something. Okay, I think we're done here. I think we can just go home. Wow, that's impressive. I'm very happy to see, because then you're sort of reflecting on what you've seen maybe some years ago already, showing you some new features, but also a bit of the culture, because I think you just need to sort of feel it. You need to experience it yourself. But we're trying to do our best with showing a little bit on this thing. I don't know what it just changed towards this one. I think this is a challenge of LinkedIn, just being so much creative in that sense. Okay, let's dive into if it's working, which is not. Yeah, it's working. Okay, great. Let's dive into the Netherlands. So this was me when I was sort of really little, playing around with this Lego, of course, you know, probably. Making cities, maybe you know that from your own children, or maybe you did it yourself when you're smaller. And you see a lot of different modalities there, right? So as a young girl, I was already thinking, let's make a city and people traveling around. And I think that explains why I went to the University of Delft, becoming a civil engineer in the end, making a lot of asphalt and bridges. But in my master's, just thinking, okay, I need to do something with cycling, because that's sort of the thing which makes it special, or at least the thing I think is sort of a part of the you need to be a part of the system. The cycling should be integrated. So I think if you see here in the corner, you see a bicycle, just one in the whole picture, but it's a bicycle, so you need a complete system. And I think it started when I was younger in that sense. But so this is the Netherlands in general. It's super flat. This was my biking trip on Sunday. I went on my bike, on my quite sporty racing bike, and I track my data. Maybe you do that as well to get better. And I'm not always getting better, but okay. And I just went out there and just clearing my mind. And yes, it's super flat. I totally agree, because my data thing, my Strava said -10 of elevation. Can you imagine? I think it's the apartment going down and then stopping it outside when I came back. So probably that's the -10, but yes, it is super flat and no elevation at all. But we do have some wind sometimes. But some people say, okay, the Dutch are more suitable to cycling. Suitable to cycling? They say it's the tallness that you have. That's why you cycle so much. Okay. Some people say, no, I'm not cycling. It rains too much. Or our weather isn't suitable for cycling at all. And then we just say, well, in Holland, it's raining 6% out of total time. I think you're way more lucky. Your weather is great. Your land is suitable. So I think you have all these key ingredients for it. Let's continue with that. Because our office of the embassy, which is a non-profit organization, by the way, it's placed in Delft, which have a lot of nice old buildings. This is our office. And I'd like to show a little movie on who we are and what we do. And let's see if that works. Right.
Cities and regions are experiencing congestion-related problems, just like the Netherlands is experiencing. Dutch Cycling Embassy connects you to our network of Holland's finest pro-cycling organizations. They let you experience cycling, think about possible solutions, and help you act on your cycling ambitions. Based on 60 years of cycling experience and numerous international projects, we think cycling could be a solution. It's liberating, convenient, healthy, money-saving, and emission-free for people worldwide.
What would your city look like if more people would cycle?
Right, so that's the question. What would your city look like if more people would cycle? And if you think about it, it's not just a thing which just happens over day. It's making choices. It's decision making. What would your city look like? We always question ourselves. It's not working again. Let's see. Who are we? We say integral team of experts. So there are different organizations, I think, sort of similar to the Joint Valley. I think whatever you're doing, knowledge institutes, civil organizations, private partners, public partners, you all cooperate with each other, working on cycling in this sense, sharing your knowledge, working together. I think that's the main thing. We call this a public-private partnership, and it works really well to have all of this knowledge combined in one organization. Let's go to some history.
The Netherlands, the post-war era. The majority of Dutch people get to their destinations by bicycle, for work, school, shopping, leisure, and everything in between. But things are rapidly changing. The 1960s. Prosperity is increasing and car ownership is growing progressively. More and more of the limited space is taken away from people on bicycles and motorized transportation is prioritized. Consequently, more people get hurt or die in traffic than ever before. including people on bicycles. The 1970s, oil crisis, dollar crisis, environmental crisis, turmoil in the world and in the Netherlands. Car-centric policies result in congestion, a hostile traffic environment, and cycling is further put on the defense. But Dutch citizens rise to the occasion, organize themselves, and collectively and loudly say, enough is enough. The grassroots campaign Stop the Child Murder starts a movement to halt this spiral, and this resonates with the Dutch people and government. The Netherlands managed to make everyday cycling an option again, turning things around for the better.
Okay, so that's the history part. And a very important part, we like to believe. Sometimes you just need some crises, apparently, to make something happen. This kind of history, I think, is also because of grassroots organizations, as we just heard. People standing up to each other, connecting to each other and saying, okay, enough is enough. We do want cycling, safe cycling infrastructure. We do want to have the opportunity or having the choice in the morning to grab the bicycle and go by work with your bike. So, but it's not only, as we call that, hardware, which is more the everything you can touch, like the physical necessities. So yes, that's infrastructure, safe, dedicated infrastructure, as we'd like to say it. But it's also about software, which is more the mindset towards it. Maybe not your mindset. I think you're all at least interested in cycling at some point. But there are people who are they just don't care. And I can imagine, well, if you have your car or be driven in a car even, you need to take care of, be aware that there are different perspectives on this cycling. And this software part takes care of that. And regarding the org where I just mentioned, I think a good example is organizations like we just heard, Joint Valley. I think these kind of organizations cooperating together, joining forces, that's the orgware, as we call it, organizationware. So you need those ingredients into the bucket to sort of get this cycling inclusive mobility. Our mission is cycling for everyone, 8 to 80, maybe 4 to 100. I don't know. I don't care. Make it an option. Okay, let's continue to why actually would it be important to cycle? Why should we sort of even care about cyclists? Well, I think we know, but we need numbers. We need arguments for these kind of questions. So city population growth is a big aspect of that. At least these are Dutch numbers. Plus 15% in the 4 biggest cities. Cities are growing and expanding, but also traffic jams, movements, increase in movements. Let's say our accessibility is under pressure. That's the main thing. Okay, but what do cyclists bring to our society and an economy then? Is the next question. Well, these are some numbers and some quite serious numbers and amounts of money saying city cyclists are faster, at least in some cities in the Netherlands. Let's say Groningen, up north, you're faster by bike, easy going. They're more healthier. This is an important aspect, I think. They just live longer. That's an important aspect as well. They're more productive. So employers, please listen carefully. They're more productive. They do more work for you in the time being on work. And they're also cheaper. Let's say less expensive. Maybe that's a better name. But that's also an important infrastructure. You need less infrastructure for that. So these kind of arguments are very important. But I think the main reason, the main case is people feel more safe in cities where a lot of cyclists are around. They feel connected. They're able to look each other in the face and just have a smile to each other. Maybe meet new people. How great is that? They feel revived. I feel revived when I come up from my bicycle. I go for sport, but also to work. I feel revived. I've got new, fresh ideas in my mind. And I just feel free. I think that's the main arguments, at least from our perspective. But now let's change to your perspective. So the United States perspective. Where do we start? Okay, well, we're zooming in. I think it was 10 minutes, wasn't it? Okay, we just made it. We have enough logos on the screen, so it doesn't matter at all. Let's go to the state of California. Let's dive into that a little bit more. I'm not going to throw boring numbers at you. Maybe you already know all these numbers. But the growth of bike commuting in California is increasing. It's even, I think, 301%. Wow. That's also from 3 to 9 cyclists. Yes, that's also a 300% increase. But still, it's 300%. It's growing. That's, I think, the main thing. This data, by the way, comes from the Bicycle League, like you probably know. If it's going through, let's skip all the different elements. This is the overall picture. And I think California is not doing so bad. I think you're doing pretty okay regarding the rest of the United States. The blue one is indicating that you're in 1 to 10 overall scoring. And if we're, so there are states doing like less good than you are. And if we're looking in the details, you're number 8 actually on state. That's all right. Yeah, I think so. That's not bad. And there's a lot of communities, businesses, and universities involved in this cycling, indicating as bicycle friendly. Well, that's a good thing too, right? So, well, stay positive. Let's zoom in a little bit more. I just say we just came from Los Angeles. We're now heading into Silicon Valley, this area over here. All right, if we say Silicon Valley, we see this picture. Back in Europe, it's Google, and I'm gonna change it definitely with a LinkedIn picture afterwards. Seeing so many bikes here up front, definitely changing it. But this is the whole idea on this kind of sense, how we look at you. And we looked up some data in our knowledge database, which is all online, by the way. So if you're interested, just visit the website. But there's a really nice report from 2012, if I'm not mistaken. We were here with the Think Bike workshop, we call it. It's actually thinking together with you on your local situation. So we did in 2012, it was October, if I'm not, together with the Royal Embassy, City of San Jose. And we really dived into some details, just as an explanation on what we do besides having presentations all over the world. We're also actually sort of trying to share this knowledge with you. And we did this in a specific location, which is in, I think if you look on this screen, you see here the city. Probably you recognize it, the city center, nice park, nice area. And we went into 1st and 2nd Street for everyone who would be interested into the details. Of course, there's more in the report, but I'd like to show you this change. So this was back then. I think these are a lot of American cities look like the left side still. But they changed it in a really nice way, in a people-friendly way, let's say, to the right one. And then during this bicycle workshop, we even went further on into maybe it looked like this. Well, with a little bit of imagination, you just, maybe someone is noticing already, but the car is just not there anymore. You don't need cars in this street, at least we think. Of course, there's cars in the next street or having the ability to drive there, but why do you need cars in every street? If you want to change your city, maybe you should rethink getting the car out completely. There's public transport, there's light rail, there's buses. There's a completely dedicated two-way bike path on the right side, two-sided, completely separated, dedicated, safe. This is an interesting aspect, I think. Just dare to challenge yourself and each other even further. Think into the future. But you did. I just had received this document on beforehand, and I think it's great. It's great. This vision, the bike vision of Silicon Valley, contains so much useful information. It's also the way on how it's displayed. And I'm not going to go into any details, but showing, let's say, boring numbers, but important numbers in a way like this, infographic style, that's the way to go. That's the start. You take it from there. So you're already on this good way. That's amazing. What I'd like to highlight on this report, what we think is very important as well, is the equity part on it. If you look at the last sentence, bicycling provides people with access to jobs that would be otherwise unavailable, and for a fraction of the cost. Maybe that's convincing people for bikes. Just try. Different bikeways. I know you're working with different bikeways. Sometimes you share, I think it's Sharrows, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, we have our own opinion on the Sharrows. Let's put it like that. But on the other hand, bike lanes, okay, bike routes, of course, completely dedicated, separate. I would like to point out again that that's the case and that's the way to go. Stanford is doing great, by the way, in that sense. Whole bicycle network, yes, try to integrate and make it connected network completely. Our expert Johan will go elaborate a bit more on the Dutch networks later on. And yes, the time to be bold is now. The time to start is now. Yes, start small and keep improving. Keep connecting the network. So one final thing before I'll hand the presenter to Bas is a development. So there are some worldwide developments. I'd like to give a little, just let's say, sneak preview in there, which is the electric bike. This is the Netherlands. Electric bikes are not just for elderly people. No, young people going to school 20 kilometers a day using e-bikes a lot. Sharing systems, e-bikes. So it's a big thing. It's a big development coming up. And yes, this amazing bike by Ford. I thought it was a car company, but apparently not anymore. So there's something changing in the world, right? So also BMW is making bikes. For us, it's like Germany, BMW, but Ford is making bikes or sponsoring bikes. That's a good thing. That's an important thing. And yes, the sharing, we already saw one. This is sharing on Schiphol Airport. Really nice wooden bikes. See a lot of businessmen on these kind of bikes. Completely wooden. It's electrified. It's just, this is the future. Inner city delivery. Yes, DHL has these kind of vehicles. So why not use them? If you make inner cities car-free or some roads, some streets car-free, well, these kind of electric vehicles can enter and do shop delivery. Why not? And yes, data, of course, I don't have to explain you that here. Data, technology, yes, that's changing as well. It's nice to keep track of your points. We're getting back to that later on when Bas goes into the technology side. And yes, self-driving cars, we need to have an open discussion together on self-driving cars. How do they respond to bicycles? How do they interact with each other? Yes, we need to do that. So I'd like to show you as a final thing, one movie on how we think with self-driving vehicles we should work.
The Dutch cycle more than any other nation in the world, almost 900 kilometers per person. But that also means we have 350,000 bike-related injuries. Now imagine that we would make biking safer, smarter and easier by applying self-driving technology to biking.
We taught our self-driving bike to figure out where it is, what's around it, what will happen next, and what it should do. We leaned on Google's expertise in self-driving cars, but we had to adapt the technology to work on a bike. We decided to add 2 additional features. First, you can request the bike to pick you up wherever you are, and we developed a comfort mode, adjusting the pedals to a perfect resting position.
I think the self-riding bike could really give a boost to the economy because people could also work on their bicycle. You work in your office, you work in your home, you work in your car. You could even work on your bike.
I have so much more time. My kids love it. They're just free. They can go anywhere they want, anytime they want. It's amazing.
At the Fietsersbond, we feel that this is the biggest invention since the invention of the bicycle itself.
At Google, we always put our users first. With the launch of this bike, we believe we do that again.
All right, I think that's it for now. Let's change and dive into one of the most important developments, which is sort of going into details on how we do it in the Netherlands regarding routes, regarding directions, regarding parkings. Yes, we're getting to that part. And I'd like to put the floor to Bas van Dijk of Lumiguide.
Can anybody hear me? Okay, good. I would really like to have one of these bikes because I'm a computer programmer, so then I can just take my laptop and then just start working already when I bike to work. So I'm Bas, I'm CTO of LumiGuide. We're a startup company in the Netherlands. And I would like to share a story about a city in the Netherlands, the city of Utrecht. Has anybody visited that city? Okay, cool. So it's a city in the middle of the Netherlands, and they have a very high usage of cycling, which is great. But that also means that the demand for parking is also very high. So about 2 years ago, the city had a real problem. So they were building all these parking facilities, but people weren't really using them. And the problem was that people didn't know where these facilities were because the city, they have limited space. So they built these facilities inside shops in the basement. And there are usually small facilities distributed around the city. Yeah, and people couldn't find them. So the city asked us, LumiGuide, to kind of think about the solution. And we came up with this system. I would like to show a little video, introduction video about how the system works. And then afterwards, I will go a bit into depth.
Traffic in Utrecht is steadily getting busier. Some 100,000 cyclists ride through the city centre every day, and their number is growing. All these cyclists look for a place to park their bicycle again and again. Utrecht is looking for smart ways to make bicycle parking at the right place easy for cyclists. One of these smart ways is the new P-Route bicycle. Utrecht is the first city in the world where digital signs are used to guide not only motorists, but also cyclists to free parking places.
We hebben in de stallingen die onderdeel zijn van het systeem een meetsysteem aangebracht. Achter mij zie je een sensor hangen, die hangen om de paar meter. Dat systeem meet van elke fietsplek of er een fiets staat. En op die manier weten wij meteen hoeveel plaatsen er beschikbaar zijn. En dat wordt doorgegeven naar de borden langs de fietspaden.
Nou, het lijkt me reuze handig om te weten waar de plekken zijn in de stad om je fiets te parkeren.
Okay, cool. That was my brother, by the way. He founded the company. Let's see if this works. Oh. So let's dive a bit into the background about this system and see, consider the problems around parking. So one of the problems we have in the Netherlands is a very weird problem. I don't know if you have it here, but it's a problem about orphan bicycles. So people, especially students, they often go to park their bike in a facility, and then at some point they never pick up their bikes again, because they probably have very old bikes, and then it's just too much hassle to take the bike out and take it home after you finish your studies. And so, in fact, 20% of Dutch parking facilities are full of bikes that are never collected again. And if you consider that, like, to build one place in a parking facility, an indoor parking facility, it's around 3,000 euros. So that's a bit even more in dollars. And they sometimes go up to 5,000 euros to build one place. So 20% is a big pile of money. And you really want to solve this. Another problem is if you build a parking facility, you want to make sure that it's being used. So you want to optimize the usage. How do you do that? Well, you want to guide people to these facilities. So in the streets, you want to have wayfinding and guidance systems that guide people to these facilities. And when people arrive in these facilities, then they will see this, and then they really think, okay, where should I park my bike? So even inside a facility, you want to have a guidance system. And if you think about all these problems and how to solve them, a detection system is at the heart of every solution. Because for orphan bicycles, you want to kind of detect the duration that a bike has been parked. For optimization, you want to know which parts are being used, which aren't being used. And for guidance, you need to know where the free spaces are. So our company, LumiGuide, we were thinking, okay, how can we detect bicycles? And we came up with the following system. I'd like to explain it a bit about how it works. So we use these things called, what we call them optical sensors, and they're basically a pair of just standard surveillance cameras. And they're mounted to the ceiling in indoor facilities, and in outdoor facilities we actually mount them to poles. And then they look at the bicycle rack. And what we do is, this is a screenshot of what our software is seeing. So here you see a two-tier bicycle rack, so two rows on top of each other. And what we do is we draw in what we call regions of interest, these rectangles. And inside these rectangles, we can see in the third dimension. So because we are using two cameras, it basically works the same as our eyes. We have two eyes and we can see depth. Our software works the same way, so we can see depth. And when a bicycle has been parked, let's show another picture. For example, here, again, a two-tier rack. When a bicycle has been parked inside a place, we can see kind of like an object in that space, and we know that that space is being occupied. Here's another picture. The system also works for rack-free places. So if you don't have a rack, we can still detect if a space is available or being occupied. Here's another one. This also shows that it not only works for bicycles, but also for other kinds of vehicles like scooters. Yeah, our software really doesn't care about what kind of object is in that space. So in new facilities that are like new buildings that are being built, we can actually integrate our system inside the ceiling, which looks really nice. So it looks a bit like this. The cameras are connected with just a very simple tiny wire, power over Ethernet connector. So it's very easy to install the system, very cheap. Now this is one of our new facilities that we actually just installed in the city of Amsterdam. It's a really huge facility. It has space for over, I think, 3,000 places. And you can actually see the cameras on the ceiling, nicely integrated. I think it looks really nice. Yeah, and here you get a kind of like a, you can see the clear size of this facility. Lots of two-tier racks, so there's a lot of space. And then here's another panoramic picture. And then what we do inside these facilities, you can see it here around the edges. If I go here, you see these, let me see, where's the pointer? Yeah. Oh yeah, you can't see it on the screen, but you can see these glass panels with the heads of the composers. This is called the Gustav Mahler-Pleinstalling, which was a classical music composer. And so every row has like a composer, a face of a composer. And then we have these green or red LED lights, and they show if a row has been, if it's being occupied or if there's space. And then what do we do with that information? Well, we actually put it on signs. So we have outdoor signage, indoor signage. Even when people go to a facility, we have at the entrance a sign that displays how much upper spaces there are and how much spaces there are at the bottom. We have different kinds of designs for displays. This is how it looks in practice. And then this is a picture of one of our outdoor signs. They're actually solar powered, meaning you can connect them to a discontinuous power source, which is really handy. So you don't have to kind of hook them up to the city power source. You can just hook them up to, for example, the public lighting system, which is really nice. We also have dynamic route information systems that can guide people to kind of temporary facilities, which we call pop-up facilities. And then besides displays, we also have apps, smartphone apps. in which we display also the same information. So people, when they start cycling, they actually can see, okay, is there space at my destination? They can even find it on a map. And it's available for all the smartphone stores. And then we have management software that's for the city officials that want to kind of see data about how their facilities are being used, which is really nice. You can actually compare facilities against each other. You can also see these three-dimensional maps of a facility. This is one. This is the same one in Amsterdam. Yeah, as a kind of a final slide, this is kind of the overview about our system. So on the left, we have all the facilities, which can be our facilities, but also facilities run by a competing detection system. As long as they can talk to us, we can hook them up. And on the right, we have all the kind of displays and the apps, and everything is connected with a cloud-based system. So the facilities upload their measurements to a cloud-based system, and then that system distributes it to all the apps and displays. Oh, this is the final slide. So this is a selection of our customers. On the top, you see mostly cities. So that's how we started, in the city of Utrecht and then city of Amsterdam. But I'm really happy that that is now shifting to also other kinds of customers. For example, universities. They have big campuses, big parking facilities, and they're also now installing our system. And I'm really happy that also companies are now considering it. So at the bottom we have, on the right, we have ABN AMRO, which is a bank. And they have also a parking facility, not that big, but they want to kind of show their employees, okay, we care about cycling, and we want to treat you with the same kind of respect that we treat our car owners. And so they installed the system in their private facility, in their office. And yeah, that's great. And the same for Albert Heijn, which is a supermarket, big supermarket in the Netherlands. And I will take questions later, when after Johan. Thank you. Yeah.
So it's good change. Okay, good afternoon. I hope I can keep you awake. It's a long time in the afternoon, and you're anxious to go home for the basketball game, I think. So I try to tell you something about more about the Netherlands. Not as beautiful as we just heard about the technique, but more about daily life, about what we call mobilist, because we think everybody is a mobilist. You take the car, you take the bike, you take the bus, but it's not pure car or pure cycling. My name is Johan Diepens. I founded Mobycon 30 years ago, at the age of 22. And now we are with 60, 65 people working on mobility in all kinds of ranges, from transport on demand for elderly and kids until active transportation. We work in the Netherlands, we work in Europe, and since 2 years I also got a limited in Ottawa, Canada. And that means that we do a lot in Ontario, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Calgary, Winnipeg, but also a little bit more on the other side of the border, in Durham, in Boston, and also in Salt Lake City, by example, and in Davis. I will show you a little bit. That's enough about companies. Cycling is normal for us. The bike is, in fact, is what we call the iron horse. Sometimes you put your groceries on it, and sometimes you put your dog in the basket when he's tired. Besides all the things about mobility and working hard, I'm also president of a sport club. It's a Dutch game, korfbal. Looks a little bit like basketball, so I have the feeling of what you have here. And we just went to the final and we won, so we are in the league of the Netherlands right now, the top 10 of the club. So that I'm very happy with that. So I wish you all the luck with the coming final. This is the game. Looks a little bit like basketball. It's more with 4 women and 4 men together in a team. So it's a very unique sport. When we talk about mobility, it's always simple because we think it's normal. But if you think about mobility, you can say, in fact, it's a basic need. Because if you can't move, no. I think I have to, no. Only goes forward. Okay. If you can't move, you have problems. You have to ask for other people for groceries and other stuff, but in fact, you're out of society. And in fact, the way we use mobility, you can say, is the way we think is normal. This is a picture from Moscow, where I was for the first time at that time, and I was a pedestrian, and I was watching the traffic lights, and I saw that I have to wait 127 seconds. And this was, I'm not that fast, so we can see how fast I am with my camera. But afterwards, I got green, 20 seconds, but all the cars also went through. So what was the benefit of it? And I asked people there in Moscow, and they said, yeah, but it's quite normal, because cars get more than we as pedestrians. So the whole system that you're building is the way you think is normal. I'm in the Airbnb here in just a residential area, and I can turn my car just on the street in one move. For us in the Netherlands, that's impossible. We have to do it twice, or we think, okay, I can go straight on. So what you think is normal is not normal for me, and what I think is normal, it's abnormal for you. And sometimes, when you think about mobility, you have no idea that it could be different. This woman takes her kid into the traffic, 3 months old. So because she has the feeling that it's safe what she's doing, it's a sign for us that we're doing it the right way. But if you've never done it, you have no idea about this, then you take your car. So telling people sometimes is very good. Not only creating infrastructure by example, but also tell people that it is there. If you talk about mobility, there are 4 points I think is important for you to tell. I think the batteries are low or something. First, mobility is important to participate in society. You think it's normal, but when you don't have a bike like us right now, then sometimes you have problems with it. Safety is very important in the Netherlands and also here. 1.25 million people are dying each year in traffic around the world. They don't come home, they are healthy, there's nothing wrong with them, but the people who love them, they never see them back again. So that is something that we work on, that is constantly important for us. For us, it's quite normal, by example, that kids from 8, 9 years old, they go on their own to school. When I tell it here, I always say, oh yeah, when I was young, I did the same. So something went wrong in your system. It should be normal independency, also for elderly people, that I can cross the street in a normal time, but also that kids and everybody is independent. And of course, sustainable. We can't think about it anymore. In that whole world, we thought, what should we do with Mobycon? Long discussions on why are we on Earth? And we said, we want to make the world less dependent on the car. And that's constantly the thing we are thinking about. And I will go on with that. This lady you already seen, born on the bike, we say. You bring your schools in the cargo bikes. This is Amsterdam. We also had a problem with cargo bikes right now, where to park them. Get too many. Your first exam in the Netherlands is your traffic exam. You are 11 years old, you get a theoretical part and a basic part, practical part. And 99.9% of the kids, they pass the exam correctly, but it's good in a mindset that before they can go to high school, it's trained. You learn to bike when you're 3 to 4 years old normally, with your parents. And so they already are biking, but it's getting more, they get more independent, go off to everything. And so it's really part of their life. Then, of course, you go to high school. It's quite a normal girl going to high school, but it's our princess. And the video is taken by our king, just a normal guy, proud of his daughter going to school. I always say around the corner there are 20 cops waiting to assist her. So you go, of course, to the town hall for marriage. And now you get a set picture. Also, it's quite normal for us that our funeral is on the bike. No, that's not normal. That's quite unique, what you see here. in your daily life, I think we think that the bike is normal, that we shouldn't have all kinds of meetings about bicycling, etc. So I want to show you something that everybody does every day, shopping. I hate it sometimes, but we have to do it. It gives you a little bit of feeling about the Dutch and the way of living. Sorry for the music, it's terrible. Minutes. Sorry, it's a part of 10 minutes. Huh? No, it's not true, but we have 20 minutes, so I should keep it a little bit shorter. But if you think about mobility, you can say you can look at it as a restaurant. You eat something. And in fact, what you serve right now, you can choose of 3 menus from the kitchen. That is, you can walk, you can take public transport, or you take the car. But there's a lot happening in the world. And the difficulty, what we see with a lot of cities, is that in fact the wishes of the consumers get bigger than what the other menu. And you can see that people are on rollerblades here, on scooters I saw them, on skateboards, bikes. So the difficulty is, if you're cooking, you have to make more menus in fact in the same kitchen. So there's a discussion about your urban space. Where do we put them? Put it together? Do we make a difference, yes or no? And that is a difficulty. So we can go on with that. And those are all around the world. If you look at Paris, I think about 5-6 years ago, they did some very dramatic things for cars. They put away their space on a lot of things. This route is a famous route, but what you see here is people. And I think it's about only 20% of the cars that were used there to be there. And this is, I have to stand here, I think. This is a famous place for you. But in fact, what you see is that we take away the space of the car and we bring it back to the people. We can call shared space. And what you see is that it was overnight done. And the next morning, everybody comes there and says, oh, it's quite normal here. And they take a chair to sit on. So people act like what you give them, in fact. And that, I think, is what you see more and more and more in all kinds of cities, that we want to give the city back to the people. We want to have people on the streets. We want to meet people, want to hear people, etc. We do a lot of work in London at the moment, and interesting to know that there are more bikes than cars crossing the Thames at the moment. And also there was a lot of research, and what you see there is that people say, yeah, I can switch off from work. My relationships have improved. I'm more creative. I feel less stress. So they're all constantly positive signs about cycling. Your kitchen stays the same. So that means that we have to think about things. If you can organize your system another way, you can say, we got mobilists, we got pedestrians, they use nothing, they are on their own, but active, independent. We got people who use a bike, they use something to go from A to B, but still active, with rollerblades, scooters, and cyclists. Passive with active behavior, you sit. Cars, in fact, an electric wheelchair. You sit and you have to drive, you have to do something. Or you can take public transport, or sit in a car, by example. For European cities, we don't have that much space as you have here. So for us, space is very important. It's a reason why you want to change things. You can see here, there's a famous picture. The bikes, same amount of people, bikes, cars, and buses. So you see who's using the space. And in fact, of course, self-driving cars, we already saw them, are quite popular right now, but in the 50s, people were already dreaming about it. It's a little bit different to what we see right now, but you can see that people are playing games in the car, and we think it will be normal. There's lots of discussion about the future also in the Netherlands, but what I think personally, and a lot of people with me, is that when the self-driving car is coming, that's perfect, because it means that it moves over from passive to passive behavior. That means that we get more space in our cities, because we think that there will be some smart instrument, some business model, that I don't have to own my own self-driving car, but that I can use it in a collective way. There's a lot of discussions, but we think that if you look at this one, you get the active modes and you get the big passive modes. Because there's a lot happening in the Netherlands on biking. This is our bike. And normally it's a little bit different from what you see here, because these are our iron horses, also the electric ones. You sit straight up. You can put your basket on your steer. You can put them at the back. And there's happening really a revolution on this one, because what we see is that 70% of all our movements are shorter than 7.5 kilometers, say 5 miles. And what we see is that what we had was 33, 1/3 was cycling, 1/3 was cars. And now we go up to 50% as average in the Netherlands. So there's a real revolution going on the way we move from A to B. Old, young, doesn't matter, they go on that electric bike, also for the longer distances, say for 10 miles. So this can be a future also for here that is easier to go, because we have always had the wind in our face, and now we get the wind in our back suddenly. Because if you don't change, if you do what you always did, you get what you always got. Einstein said it, and in fact, that's the choice you have to make. If you make choices, I think it's quite important to think about safety. Because if you make a mistake, people are dying. And what you see here with the line is 30 kilometers an hour, 20 miles an hour. That means that if you're hit by a car with that speed, you've got 85% chance that you will survive, that you can go on with your life. You can also see the line going up. That means that if you get hit by a car with 50, say 35 miles an hour, then you have 50% chance that you will survive. 85% chance that you will die. So it's quite amazing, also here, that you accept that cars go sometimes 40 miles an hour to streets. Because that means that somebody makes a mistake or something happens, the chance is quite high that people will die. And we make a lot of noise about food and everything else, but just in our daily life, just in front of our house, things are happening. So you have discussion, this is London, and you can see that this lady is not feeling very comfortable. So you have a long discussion about mixing or separation, or what do you do? For us, it is quite simple, in fact. If cars go faster than 20 miles an hour, we separate. There's no discussion about that. It's quite simple. And you see that also in our infrastructure. So that means that you have to think in networks. Are things possible? What I already told you, we have an office in Canada, so we get more and more involved in all kinds of discussions. And we got a question from Ottawa. We want to change something here. Is it possible, yes or no, with your Dutch expertise? This is the way that it is right now. And we believe, cars drive quite fast here, so we believe here in good separation, hardcore separation. And these are the intersections. And for us, it should be a little bit different, because we want to go, if cars are turning, we want to have 90 degrees angle where people look at each other. Eye contact, people, is very important. So it's a little bit too short here, but we are happy with what we've done, because we believe that we have Dutch knowledge, experience, and we mix it with your culture and what is possible within the law, etc. But we want to change sometimes the law a little bit. Closer home is Davis, California. We got this question, new area for living. We want to connect it with university, with living areas, with shops, etc. So a lot of discussion about intersections. This is the East Covell Boulevard. And what we wanted here was the protected intersection, because the same discussion about speed. They made it. It's only 2 hours ride from here, and then you can visit this kind of places. And to be honest, it works. So these are experiences with Dutch expertise, mixing it with the American expertise. Mirjam already told you, if you want to change something, then you have hardware and software. I go quite fast with the cooperation is important. Not only cities with people, cities with businesses, etc. Collaboration. More to the infrastructure, dit is Vancouver. Separation, hardcore separation. The Peace Bridge in Calgary, a good part of the network. But if you go to the other side, you're completely lost as a cyclist. And you're completely in the car world. So, good part. And that's a lesson, I think, that you go always, the complete chain is important. From start till end. What we see always, that see also here, and a lot of times you look quite well, is that the intersections are the weakest link. I see a lot of separated lanes, and suddenly, 50 meters before the intersection, everything is disappeared. And I think that a lot of people find it very difficult to design a proper intersection. You see here some solutions from the Netherlands. On the lower left, you see the raised platforms. In our residential areas, it's quite normal that we raise it so that the speed is low at the intersection. And what we see is that within residential areas, we don't want to have separated cycle lanes. There's the speed low from cars, so we can mix them. Higher speed, you can see here what very popular is with us is the roundabout, but not your roundabout, but for us roundabouts are difficult for cars. Not too difficult, but they have to stop, really. They give priority. Really slow them down, it's a 90 degrees. It's quite, I saw roundabouts here at the university, beautiful designed, but you can go too fast with your car over them. So you have to change it. One point is that you can say, okay, I design it, it's perfect on daytime, but what we discovered also, that people want to have a safe route also in the evening. When it is late at night, you want to feel free, safe. This is a short movie from what we call Sweet Lake City, Zoetermeer in the Netherlands. It's a plan about social safety for a cycle network. It is in Dutch, but undertitled in English.
Zoetermeer bestond in 1960 nog uit een aantal kleine dorpen. Volgens een grootschalig plan groeide de gemeente in slechts 3 decennia uit tot een stad van meer dan 100.000 inwoners. Bij het plan stond fietsveiligheid vanaf het begin hoog op de agenda, met een grotendeels gescheiden netwerk van fietspaden. Aan veiligheid voor fietsers is de gemeente blijven werken, met grootschalige oplossingen, maar ook met slimme kleine aanpassingen, zoals de groenstrook, een wegversmalling door een groene markering op het asfalt. De vele fietstunnels en bruggen zorgen voor een hoge verkeersveiligheid, maar hebben ook een nadeel. Door de afstand tot de rijweg ontstond er een lager gevoel van veiligheid. In de donkere avonduren maakten fietsers er minder gebruik van dan gewenst. Ook hiervoor bedacht de gemeente Zoetermeer een innovatieve oplossing: nachtnetfiets. Fietsroutes werden veiliger gemaakt door bijvoorbeeld struiken te verwijderen, maar vooral door te zorgen voor goede verlichting. En op sommige plekken zelfs voor feestelijke verlichting. Voorbeelden zijn de spectaculair verlichte Burgemeester Waaierbrug, glow-in-the-dark wegmarkeringen die overdag door zonlicht worden opgeladen. En niet te vergeten de Zoetermeerse discotunnel. Oplossingen zoals deze zorgen niet alleen voor een hogere verkeersveiligheid en veiligheidsgevoel, maar nodigen ook uit om 's avonds als groep de fiets te nemen. En dat zorgt voor nog meer veiligheid. Aan het nachtnetfiets is 10 jaar gewerkt. Op 1 oktober 2016 wordt het officieel in gebruik genomen. Door oplossingen als het nachtnetfiets is de fietsveiligheid in Zoetermeer overdag en 's nachts aanzienlijk verbeterd.
Some examples from the Netherlands. 10 years of work, so you're not finished in over one night. One part of education, 80 days around the world, an app for kids. They go as a class, they go around the world. We collect their kilometers they're making, their miles they're making with the app. 80 days around the world. When they are arriving in Paris, they get a lesson about Paris. We closed this game 3 weeks ago. And the fastest class went 22 days around the world. So they're enjoying it, they're really doing it together, and they get a lot of activity from it. My last one, and then I'm finished. If you talk about education, you can talk about the education of cyclists, but I think more important is also the education of car drivers. Because you have 3 generations who lost the bike. People are not aware of it. They have no idea about how it is to be a cyclist. This is a promo from Scotland about this issue.
Not a lot of people know this, but you should treat a cyclist the way you treat a horse. We just mean slow down, treat them with care, and give them their space on the road.
A little bit humor is always good. Huh? For us, these are the 4 parts of thinking about mobility. Of course, talk about people, mobilists, where they want to do something, activities. So if you have plans like here for 35,000 people working in one location, in fact, you're asking for problems about mobility. Transport modes and infrastructure, those 4 you have to think about. And what you see a lot in plans is that we only think about infrastructure, not about modes, and completely not about mobilists. But if you can take those 4, you can make some good steps in approaching. So I think we all together, for us it's important that we inspire you to create living cities here in California. I think you are doing the good steps, but we want to push you a little bit more further. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you to all 3 of you. We have time now for questions. Good, I see hands going up. How about if we just start taking them randomly? Is that all right? Okay, then it was you. You have the first question.
So I saw only a few examples in pictures and your video of people wearing bike helmets. I think it was the children.
Yep. It's not always the first one, but he will come always. For us, it's quite normal that when you go faster than 30 kilometers an hour on a race bike and electric speed bike, that you use a helmet. But under that, it is not necessary by law. But we also did some research on it, and we think that in the Netherlands, we found out that it's not very useful. The people who were dying on the bike, they didn't have anything on with the helmet. And we just discovered that, in fact, car drivers have more use of a helmet in a car than cyclists with accidents. Because our system is different. We have a safer system. And I see unbelief in your eyes, but... No, I understand.
Yeah. Besides the research, I think is an interesting addition to that question is that we'd like to advise everywhere, but especially Australia and New Zealand, we get this question also quite a lot, a bit similar to this situation. And we always say just for us, for our situation, we say design for safe infrastructure. So design for a situation where you don't need a helmet. That should municipalities do. And also state government, different levels. So designing for, design infrastructure that you don't need a helmet. That's our sort of line, our benchmark. So you probably will agree anyway, but that's all we say.
Responsible, is that the case?
Yep.
So then you have a judicial police problem here, because there's a lot of states where if you go onto the road on a bicycle, there's an accident, even if it's the driver's fault of the car, the cops will say, well, too bad, you put yourself in harm's way.
The question is that if there's an accident with a cyclist and a car in the Netherlands, then the car driver is always wrong with us. There's no discussion about it. Or he has to really prove that the cyclist did something very stupid. That he was, and here there's a difference, because here you are wrong as a cyclist, or it's your own problem. But with us, in fact, we take some care about vulnerable road users. Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. The second gentleman, can you talk a little bit about design decisions and trade-offs? I'm thinking about my bike, which is a cruiser and has fat tires, and there are stands designed here where you can't slip the front tire in, and you showed some pictures of different kinds of bicycles. So how did you have to make some trade-offs when you were scaling up like that, or how did you include, maybe tandem bicycles or these cargo bicycles and et cetera?
Actually, in the Netherlands, that's a bit of a problem because our facilities, they are designed for kind of normal bicycles. And around pretty much 80% of the facilities is being designed only for those kinds of bicycles. But we're seeing, like you're saying, that bicycles are getting bigger, and we call them kind of off-sized bicycles. So they have like bicycles with seats for children on them or big boxes in front of them, and they don't fit in the facilities. And we are seeing that more space is needed for these kinds of bicycles, and that is being created, but I think it's a bit too slow. We should design our facilities also for these kind of new types of bicycles. And for example, also for e-bikes. So we need to have charging stations inside facilities. And I think if you start now with thinking about, okay, what is this distribution of different types of bicycles, then you can design your facilities, for those bikes.
Maybe I know one development on the University of Delft campus, which they have a solar, sort of a little roof where you can just park your electric bike under and it charges automatically. So I think it's only for staff now, but that's the developments going on universities, yeah.
So a question for you. My name is Harold Schapelhomen, or Schapelhomen is the Dutch pronunciation. I'm the fire chief for Menlo Park Fire District. How do you deal with the issues about first responders, specifically for fire and emergencies, not so much in the Netherlands, but when you've gone to Canada, here in the United States, because of the incompatibility at times that our system, which is extremely unsophisticated, creates? I mean, I don't see that in any of the slides, and I don't see that in the United States very often at all. We're really not even invited to the table, if you will.
It's quite normal in the Dutch situation that in the discussion about designing and solutions and choices, that the police department is also involved. They take care also on the fire department about the travel time towards an accident. So of course we also have those kind of discussions. I didn't show it, but we always think in networks. So there are different layers, in fact, in our networks. The car network has, in fact, a wider range than the cycle network in residential areas. And within those car networks, we try to get the real good time to go to a fire or an accident or something. But and that's, I think, the difference. What you see in a lot of American towns is that all the streets are equal to each other. There's not really a network of that. That means that also the wayfinding for everybody is difficult. And what is the smartest route? And we see the profit of that because we also want to have the traffic more fluid on those routes. That means that if we have a higher route for the car, and we also have a lot of cyclists, then we make the choice that or the cars goes under it, or the cyclist goes with the bridge over it. So you also make different choices than in your network. And that means that the travel time on this network is faster than without those kind of measurements. Yeah.
Thank you. I was wondering if bike theft is a common problem in the Netherlands. I know myself and other friends, we might think, oh, it's really easy to bike downtown San Jose or Willow Glen, but I'm worried my bike will be stolen or someone will steal a wheel or the seat. So I'm wondering if you have any lessons or things you can teach us about that.
Yeah, well, I can say, it's definitely a problem, a big problem in the Netherlands. It's, I think all of us have experienced a bike being stolen. In fact, I can tell you a short story. We were installing our detection system in one of our outdoor facilities, and we were standing on a ladder and installing one of our cameras, and somebody with a screwdriver under us was just stealing a bike, and he was like looking at us, and that was crazy. And we often get called by the police. They ask us, "Can you give us your camera pictures?" But we don't record anything because we don't need to, and we think it's kind of a violation for your privacy, so we don't. But it is a problem. And I think one of the solutions is to have indoor guarded parking facilities with an actual physical person being there. Yeah.
As you perhaps know, we got 22 million bikes in the Netherlands, more than people, and around 700,000 bikes are stolen each year. But we have a system. When you buy a new bike, you can get your insurance, and then you hope that your bike will be stolen after 3 years, because then you get a new bike. It works quite well.
I'm wondering if the public support and consensus in support of bicycling is consistent, or is it shaky? Do municipalities need encouragement campaigns to maintain public support for cycling? That's one of my question. And then secondly, do disability groups and seniors play a role in advocacy? Because I've seen in my experience in the Netherlands on market day, people come out in their electric scooters coming to market. It's just wonderful to see. And I'm wondering what role those groups play.
What we try to tell you, I think, is that the bike is quite normal with us. So everybody thinks it's normal to invest in bike infrastructure. And to invest, it is quite normal that you have a good cycle track towards the market. But what you see also constantly is that we also understand that we have to promote it. So we do all kinds of campaigns, like I showed you with the 80 days campaign for kids. We are busy with promoting and telling people that it is perfect to bike, by example. We got some big organizations in the Netherlands. They are very busy telling people about the priority of the bike in all kinds of political discussions. But what you also see is that our system with electric wheelchairs, a lot of people, they have this kind of transport modes. And the most discussion is, are they pedestrians or are they cyclists? Because sometimes elderly people go with 25 kilometers an hour to a shop on this kind of things. So if you can be hit by something like that, then you also have another problem. But we are participating is quite important with us.
Maybe one addition to that, we have a cycling union, like a national cycling union, let's say our advocacy group, and many people are like a member of them. And I think they are really sort of also doing a lot of surveys, at least one time a year, and people can just address different junctions, for example, different issues where there are still some, let's say, minor improvements could be made. So they do this a lot of surveys, and with some, we had these bullards as well, or some like within the road, and we think they're very unsafe nowadays. So you can report it to the cycling union, and they go to the municipality and say, okay, maybe remove the bollard or redesign this structure. So we keep improving with the municipalities.
Excuse me. Yes, I had a question about bicycle infrastructure or bike track or cycle track design. There are a lot of new tricycle and quadricycle pedal assist vehicles that are being developed, and I wondered what special considerations are being applied to new designs, new cycle track design to accommodate that type of vehicle.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We just finished a report of a study for 2 years about this kind of problems, because we see more cargo bikes, we see more speed bikes. And the final discussion is that, I didn't show those kind of slides, but that we think more in families. So we have the pedestrian family, the bicycle family, but also the light motorized vehicle family. And it's about weight and about size. The discussion is that we think the bike is very adorable so far, so whatever they do is perfect. But we see got too many bikes, so we have to make choices. That means that we think about maximum speed on cycle tracks, but also where to put people. So if you go faster than a certain speed, or, for example, the speed pedelec goes 45 kilometers an hour, we have said, okay, you're just like a moped, so you should be between the cars instead of between the bikes. So we are struggling with this kind of things because, in fact, our law system goes very slow. That means that there are constantly new developments, and they're walking, in fact, a little bit behind those kind of developments. And that means that they are already on the road, but we don't know where to put them. But it's going faster and faster.
The last time I was in Amsterdam, I came in by train and met my friends, the Nerds and Squares from Delft University. I noticed as I walked across the plaza an awful lot of light rail systems, which are going slowly, but nonetheless trying to provide transportation services. And I saw cement mixers, baby strollers, automobiles, of course, all on the same plane, just like we have here. And you mentioned downtown first in Santa Clara and San Jose, where you have the same mixture of 15 different modes. Now, according to laws of physics, if something is large hits something that's small, it's no contest. And I am very disturbed to see the promotion here of bicycling by using this fantasy that somehow a little bit of paint is going to stop 2 tons from hitting 200 pounds and causing someone to make a short trip to the pearly gates. And I don't see that solution where you have completely separated the ground where people belong, and I include bicycles as people, from everything else. And once you move transportation above the ground and put people on the ground, then all of a sudden you have a safe environment and you're no longer trying to defy the laws of physics by just telling people to be nice to each other and, you know, for cars to drive slow and all this rhetoric, which, as far as I can tell, rhetoric doesn't save any lives, really, at the end of the day.
I think what you see, if you go to the Netherlands more and more, you see that in our inner cities like Amsterdam or Rotterdam, you see that we define which area is for what kind of transport mode. And that means, by example, that if you come to a lot of areas in Amsterdam, we say, in fact, the pedestrian, that is the way we would design it for, and the rest is as a guest, also cyclist. If you go to the city of Utrecht at the moment, we say there are a lot of pedestrians. You can go there on your bike, but you shouldn't go faster than 10 kilometers an hour. You shouldn't park it in the pedestrian area. But that means that cars and sometimes big trucks, they have to deliver something there, but we don't design it for them. So it is more and more what kind of identity has this area, what should be happening there, what kind of meetings. And sometimes you can say the car is dominating, then we design it for the car and the separation for the bikes. I agree with you that if you draw a line, that's perfect. But if the big truck goes over it, or perhaps there are 2 cyclists and they talk with each other and one makes a mistake that he goes just a little bit over that line, yeah, then the battle is unfair. And that means what I showed you from Ottawa, that if those kind of measurements are there, you should separate one way or another. So separation is for us what we call sustainable safety, is one of the basic elements in thinking. And sometimes if you cut 2 lanes for a car, yeah, then some lane disappears if you want to continue it.
I think there's another interesting development going on in the Netherlands. We see that in Amsterdam Central Station and on the back side, along the water side, maybe some of you have been there. It wasn't a really nice area, but they're sort of doing a pilot right now, which they're changing it into the shared space. And of course, this is like a container saying, let's say, shared space. What is shared space? Well, sharing the limited space, which is in Amsterdam really limited, with all the different modalities. And you can think of it what you like, but it's a very interesting pilot. You should definitely Google on it. You can see movies like people on cycling and pedestrians going as sort of like birds, like swarms towards each other, and it's just one sort of mixture, and you're just like, oh, it went right. You're sort of afraid that it goes wrong, but it goes. There haven't been an accident since they implemented it, which is a couple of months already right now. So it's a trial, but I think more and more city centers or squares were trying to lower the speed, share the space more, have a lot of interaction as well. But it's just a new thing coming up.
Hi, my name's Tim. I'm in Sunnyvale, and you did a fantastic job with your presentation. It was just spectacular seeing what's happening in Holland. I'd really like to show this to some neighbors that aren't active bicyclists per se, so they get an appreciation for what this is all like. Have you recorded your entire set of presentations here ever, so I could show it to other people?
I am Danielle. I'm working with LinkedIn, and we recorded this, so it'll be available soon.
Thank you.
Next Thursday, the movie. Huh?
I know you're speaking mostly of infrastructure in this presentation, and it seems to focus more on cities than smaller villages. But my question is about any data you have on health effects with cyclists in the country, in perhaps over time or.
Many studies and research being done on this health part. We see last, let's say, 5 years, an enormous increase in research on cycling and also in combination with health, which is a good thing, of course. More and more research available, more data coming up. There was a really interesting study, I think from a university in New York. It was really widely spread. It even reached sort of the Netherlands, which is an aspect on health. I think saving you're living a day longer. I don't know what the exact number. 6 months longer because of cycling. In a complete, but there's many. It's depending on whatever health aspect you're thinking of. I mentioned some figures in the beginning. I can also share them with you if you'd like to. But those health are more like regarding employers. They're more productive. They're doing more work. They live longer. It's all depending on the different cultural aspects as well. So I'd like to share some United States figures with you. We definitely have to have those slightly different from the Netherlands, but same sort of stretch. Yes, it's good for your health. We'll talk after, I think.
Maybe it's good to mention that at the back we put some business cards with general contact information. There's also a little blue box there. So in case you have any questions, you can just grab one of those general business cards in case you don't get to speak to one of them. And then send your question to the email address on it, which is info@dutchcycling.nl. And then from there on, we can send you the information as well in order to prevent, well, any...
Hi, I'm Ria from the city of Sunnyvale. I actually had a 3-part question. If that's okay. So for Mirjam, I was wondering, you said that you had some opinions about sharrows, and I would like to hear them. For Bas, I'm wondering if you've dealt with rack-free share bikes and how that, how you kind of help people to park in an orderly way when they don't have racks. And the last question is, in this area, from what you've seen, what do you think should be our first thing to invest in?
Let's start with the first part. That's an interesting one. Well, let me be clear on the fact that every change regarding towards a cycling-friendly road is a good change. I think we should start with that. We had some very interesting, the presentations are really focused on cities, I totally agree. We were in Thousand Oaks, which is a bit northwest of Los Angeles last week. It's a really nice community together. They have a lot of, we had a big discussion on the sharrows there. Overall, the people who were cycling on the sharrows were really happy with it. At least it's something to give them the right to be on the road in that sense, in the middle of the road. But yeah, still they weren't sort of completely satisfied with it, of course. But it is a change. On the other hand, my personal opinion, let's put it that way, is that if you'd like to redesign your road, for example, if there's construction or maintenance or whatsoever opportunity comes along to change the road, you should do it in a proper and in a good way, completely dedicated and completely safe. So you actually don't need a helmet in that sense. So that's just our opinion. And I think regarding the last question, I think my personal insight would be focus on to create a connected and consistent network in that sense. So yes, completely dedicated. If there's just one loop completely dedicated through the city, that's at least something instead of bits and pieces here and there. So I think should focus on the network side of it and connect the links to each other. And yes, that's a lot of intersections probably. I should focus on that side. But
So yeah, regarding the second question about shared bicycles, so I think you're talking about bikes that you can kind of park in a spot and then somebody else can take it. Well, the answer is, I think, partly also what I talked about earlier. You should, of course, think about the types of bikes that are being parked in a facility and then design for that. Our system in particular can't really detect what kind of vehicle is being parked in a space, so we only know if a space is being occupied or available. So we can't detect if it's a shared bicycle. So you need a separate system, I think, for that. That kind of determines if a shared bicycle is being parked there. Yeah, I think that's. Does that answer your question? Sort of, okay.
For part three, short follow for part three, then I think that you have what they call cities within the city. So you need success, in fact. You want people on the bike. If you invest in a total network, you need a lot of money everywhere. So I think there is some low-hanging fruit somewhere. By example, your area of university, Stanford University, there are already a lot of people on the bikes. Just make good pilots there with the thought of 24/7, so that you're not only going to work, but also to the schools, to the shops. They create an area where it is normal to bike, and but also you know that the people who live there are open to bike. So then you have your pilots, your experiments, and that will show that the price of the houses will increase, and everybody wants it everywhere.
I'm Svante Rodegaard. I grew up in Sweden, so a lot of this is natural for me and something we did winter, summer, rain, snow. And what I always think about, I've been here now over 30 years, is that how do you finance all this? In Sweden, there is no question, of course, what's good for the people, you finance. And a discussion I had with the city people in my hometown, Västerås, was if you have very good bike roads, it's cheaper than to expand the roadway for the cars. But you ever get involved with politicians and city people? How do you finance all this? It's kind of, otherwise it just becomes romantic little bike tours around the cities.
The finance is always a discussion, but in fact you talk about what we call cost allocation. So where do you put your money and what's the effect of it in total? And what we know is that if we can people stay out of the car, we get less cars, that it's more payable, the whole infrastructure system, then we get a lot of cars. And in fact, that's what we're doing more and more and more. We have a lot of queues. The discussion was, should we build more highways, yes or no? But instead of that, we pay money to people to stay out of the rush hour. So they take now the public transport, the bike, or they stay home. But we got 5 to 6% less cars on the road. That means that there's no queue anymore. So that is systems. Yeah. But cost allocation is if you invest in cycling, what we saw with the pictures of the space, yeah, you need less space.
I think it's interesting to also look at, besides infrastructure, look at indeed, let's say, promotional campaigns to reward people and not to punish them for doing nothing, but maybe reward for staying out of peak hour. We can work at home. I work at home the first 2 hours, and then sometimes I take the train, even because the train is like congested. I don't like to travel in a peak hour, so rewards, I think those things are the most important. I hope that answered your question. We'll stay around a little bit longer for more questions later on. And before I provide the microphone, well, you already have one, but have the word back to you, I actually like to thank you. So I'm grabbing the moment here. Please join on the stage.
And then Shiloh, too.
Please join in. And I'd like Michael as well from LinkedIn for, of course, providing the opportunity for us. Just a few words, I think. The reasons for inviting us, I would just say thank you. Because for us, it's a great opportunity to be here. There's a lot of words on Silicon Valley. Of course, many, many famous companies, products we use every day in daily life. LinkedIn every day, I think. But also, of course, Facebook, Apple. So it's a great opportunity for us to be here. I really enjoy it here, not only the weather, but also the conversations, the people. We stay a bit longer as well. We have some more programs, so feel free to ask and join in into the program later on if you'd like to. We have some small gifts, actually. I'd like to start with you, Russell, because thank you for all the efforts you've done. We had some Skype sessions. You put a lot of personal effort and personal motivation into this to make it happen, and I'd just like to thank you for that. We have the Cycling Cities European Experience book for you, which is quite heavy, so we're... The suitcase can get a bit bigger, a bit more lighter in that sense. It's a really nice book of over 10 years of studies, worldwide cities with best practices on cycling. So maybe just go into it, maybe some inspiration. We hope to be there. So thank you.
That's lovely. Pleasure, absolutely.
And we were thinking on LinkedIn, yeah, what do you give to LinkedIn? Well, we thought something technical. So I don't know if you know the fin. Maybe you know it. You can put your cell phone on your steering wheel. Yeah, with a really easy fixed thing to do. It's a really nice thing. And of course, it's very important to collect all the data behind it. So that's why we actually have two. So you can share it and use it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, a round of applause for our Dutch visitors. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Shiloh, for being a great partner. Thanks to all of you for your interest, and we hope your commitment as we go forward and transform our landscape. Thanks, everybody.